that you create heaven or hell in your mind and manifest it on earth as it is in heaven. Heaven is in our mind, straight up. It's real simple. There's so much knowledge to derive from the Bible if we look at it as not being literal, but being abstract and making the correlations. It's pretty ingenious. This shit right here. Ooh. This that guaranteed smash. Ooh. Nice interpolation of that G-Funk type. That shit hard. Hey man, you gotta just keep doing what you do. It's not about anything other than you getting feedback and you having to level your skill up so you can get through. Shit. There's a high distribution of NPCs out there, man, that don't even have the ability to listen. They're deterministic. They don't have free will. And somehow we got to get through to those that do, that are just acting like NPCs, acting like bots. Because there's nothing more beautiful than pulling someone out of the darkness into the light, where they can make sense and actually fucking have some sure step. They're not acting out of motherfucking uncertainty, out of fear, doing some bitch ass shit to reduce that uncomfortable feeling of misalignment in their mind. Because all disease in the mind manifests into disease in the body. Motherfuckers end up dead, literally, from constantly worrying. If worrying was useful, it wouldn't kill us. Now, it is useful in the immediate and short term, but you got to understand that lingering is a sign of fear. It wouldn't have been encoded into our DNA to worry if it wasn't useful in some sense. Think of our survival of the fittest conditions that we evolved in, where our survival wasn't guaranteed until recently. You had to have your head on a swivel or you get eaten out there in the savannah desert. So you should be worried about certain things, but you can't let it linger. When it sticks around for too long, you're considering it. It's okay to interpret information. Always remember, you're not the inputs that you're receiving. You're not the emotions and the sensations that you're experiencing. You're the consciousness that's experiencing it and interpreting it. Once you spot that, you got it. Once you get that impulse to do something compulsive that destroys what you're on, as soon as you get used to it and spot it, it's over. You got to be able to check yourself before you wreck yourself for real. We can all tap into that hive mind. That's God. He wants to that knowledge that he has for us. He wants us to have it. If we're not receiving it, we're obstructing his blessing. Give us this day our daily bread. You can't eat without the right knowledge. You know, life is the tool, the gift. Everything in this experience is a gift, the up and the down. Because that negative experience, the pain, is the most quality feedback to help you iron out the wrinkles, minimize deviation from the set point, the goal, get back on track to that course, to fulfillment, transcendence. Straight up, Danny, it's all about self-image. You already know that psycho-cybernetics will really get you right. You understand that our consciousness is a self-sustaining, self-generating, referential, closed-circuit feedback loop. It's a cybernetic control loop that feeds into itself. The last variable feeds into the cause. The last variable is your beliefs that feed into your self-image. Your beliefs come from your conclusions of reflecting on what type of shit's happening, whether or not your mental models were accurate, your predictions were accurate. Predictions allow us to refine our mental models. I hope my brothers are hearing my words, because if you're not paying attention, they'll fly right past you. You know, big gems. It's all about understanding the parallels of your mind, your consciousness with cybernetics. It's a cybernetic control loop, just like the thermostat, no difference. The servo mechanism, the output function on the thermostat to minimize the temperature from deviating from 68 degrees, detecting with its sensors that deviation, the outside temperature, making the room hotter. Our sensations are those sensors, our senses, the sensations, the emotions that we experience, good and bad, allow us to stay on track. And you can't shut yourself off from the negative. For real. Your subconscious is the servo mechanism. It just does what you tell it. You want to run from your shit? You want to motherfucking think like a victim and expect what you already know to be most likely? Because you're not willing to sacrifice. You know God's going to make a sacrifice for you and take what you want. Because you weren't willing to make a wholehearted sacrifice. It's interesting. The maturity aspect, the responsibility of becoming a man. A little boy is always stuck in that fucking fantasy land. And at some point, you got to begin to make sacrifices to certain attachments to improve the circumstances of your future. And if you're not willing to do it, God or life will do it for you and impose its will upon you, because you're not imposing your will onto life. For real. You got to start and make incremental progress every day. Every day when you become conscious, you could go about it in a disciplined, ordered fashion. You got to reduce the motherfucking noise if you really want to tap into the instincts, which I honestly believe is a lower bandwidth frequency input that we're getting, which is the accumulation of our previous experiences in the simulation, our overall knowledge. And you got to be really tapped in to gain your experiences from previous lives, like your overall experience in the simulation. My instincts are on the money, on the money, on the money. When I tap in and I'm in my ordered routine, doing my thing, it's fucking water flow. It's water flow. There's nothing on earth that people will say is harder than betting on the outcome of sporting events, let alone the NBA playoffs. And clearly you see me deriving some type of inference from a handicapped, disordered set of information. I'm able to, deductively reason to a high probability speculation. And it's not just with betting, it's with music, it's with everything in life. Straight up, God's will is our will. We are God. I am God. Does that make you mad? It shouldn't. Decondition yourself. I am God. The eye that I see the world with, these eyes, are the eyes that He sees me with. And you're God too. No cap. We're all co-creators of our future reality. You want to think like a victim and contradict the divineness inside of you and block the godly accountability that comes with it once you accept it in your mind? That's on you. That's you being conditioned instead of breaking free from the trap. You got to view yourself as godly at a subconscious level. It doesn't matter if you're forcing yourself. You know how you've been playing the game, how you've been living. You know if you've been sacrificial. You know if you put yourself in pain, put yourself in discomfort. It is all about discomfort. I swear to God, you gotta be hard one way or the other. That's why I love Sunny Digital and TM88 and Southside and Metro Boomin and Honorable C No and all the legendary trap producers of that era. Cause that was the soundtrack when I really started, Shoddy Red. When I started being extremely sacrificial and just catching this cutthroat vibe where I embrace the dark side. I embrace the dark potential of life. And I fucking growl around the house and shit. And I'm just barbaric in a lot of ways. I have a very dark side to me. It's pure. But I like tapping into you know, two cavemen fighting to the death for the meal. Now, I don't view other humans as my opponent. I view the devil as my opponent. I view entropy as that opponent. Life is entropy. It's the second law of thermodynamics. It's fundamental. Life is decay. Things decay into a more disordered state naturally because of the weak nuclear force. It makes particles decay. This is how radiation occurs. This is how photons emerge and light emerges, amongst other types of radiation. Things evolve from order into disorder so naturally, do they not? You've been in the gym for 2 months straight, going hard. As soon as you take your foot off the gas, what happens? You get in better shape? You've been grinding. You've been grinding on Fruity Loops for fucking 6 months. But then you got to get a job. You got to this and that. You stop making beats. You coming back? You coming back? You coming back better than you were? Or you coming back fucking rusty? Random shit coming out. Disorder. Having some confusion. This is the hardest sample maker in the game. My young boy split it. He said he's in a bomb shelter in Ukraine right now making this kind of music. No cap. Our boy a legend. Whole lot of shit I done seen. No, Craig, my point being is that you're never going to come back more ordered, more predictable, sharper, having more consistency. It's always going to decay into disorder. It's a lifestyle, Kanan. It really gives you that subconscious certainty that you've been sacrificial. The easiest way that we could show ourselves how capable we are regarding change is to start with our bodies. Once you change your physique into something completely different and get a predictable, different reaction from everyone, once you feel predictably and consistently different, it shows you what you're capable of. You know, change is terrifying and exhilarating, and it's the courage and preparation that transform the terrifying into the most exhilarating when you come out the other side of the tunnel. When you've been fucking delaying gratification for a long time, and when that check comes in, kid, it's exponential gains. Because all that incremental progress felt like shit initially, but it was scalable. And over time, you start getting that convex upward movement instead of that concave collapse like junkies, like food addicts, like porn addicts. Hits real high in the beginning, decays slowly over time. You ain't gonna fucking decay in the gym, kid. You ain't gonna decay doing difficult research. You ain't gonna decay bypassing the impulse for comfort and staying beyond the terror barrier. Your subconscious, as a default, wants to program you to stay back in the comfort zone. But what the fuck do you think's on the other side? Freedom and the growth zone, kid. You gotta climb that terror barrier and stay on the other side of the wall. You gotta ritualize discomfort, ritualize pain, become friends with uncertainty. Straight up. Make order from chaos. Make order from disorder constantly. That's why, you know, complex systems feed off of volatility, entropy, increased potentiality that comes with the increase of information that could describe the future state. That's a natural progression. Just let life happen and fucking learn from the ups and the downs and constantly be introspective, retrospective, thinking about your choices and make better decisions than choices that led you astray. Juco, what's up, brother? Sammy, what up, boy? Y'all boys jump the terror barrier. Go right back. I stay on this side, kid. I'm the motherfucking Grim Reaper. No cap. Freedom. Financial freedom. Spiritual freedom. Intellectual freedom. Physical freedom. I love the way I feel when I'm running down the motherfucking strip. Jumping up the stairs and shit. Jumping over the trash cans. I don't take it for granted. I'm not gonna suffer from rigor mortis, because if you use it and motherfucking constantly use it, you won't lose it. Same email, kids, send it. That boy split it too hard. I say split is the hardest out. Let me see what Cloud and Juco sent. Them boys pressing. Them boys pressing shit. Huh. That one ain't jumping out. Shit gotta jump. Cause a lot of people making this type of sound right now. And you gotta be able to take risks, which is a unique probability distribution. Let's imagine we're sitting here, you know, in baseball it's called the spray chart. It's called the spray chart. Where the distribution of you know, hits go. Imagine the field here being anything that's not up the middle is a motherfucking hit. You know that most people aren't taking risks, so their distribution is the Gaussian distribution, the norm, all in the middle. That unique distribution is over here by itself, deviating from the norm. You got to take risks, kid, which is a unique probability distribution. Do you think I think like others in the casino? You think there's anyone in the casino that thinks like me? In any given outcome, of course. Maybe not the nuance, but the overall direction, of course. They do give money away. They don't want people losing their ass in the casino. They want them hitting around 50%. So you can't be motherfucking ignorant and just try and fade the public. It's got to be a walking that thin line. And I've been able to refine my mental models to where, when applied, the outcomes are highly probable. Man, I'm on some shit so much bigger than music. For real, kid. Ooh, that shit dropped right there. Huh. That shit dropped right there, kid. I see a lot of people collabing with Q Beach right now. I hope that's not like out of some like pack that they're selling. I hope it's more like a more unique collab. I ain't feeling that one. That instrument. Cause I ain't trying to put some like shit that's been sent out all over the internet in a pack. It really don't matter though. Cause if it's a hit, it's a hit. I'm trying to get to the money. Ain't no one heard this shit. Yeah, some producers. Who gives a fuck what a producer thinks? It's about the audience that's never heard it, that idolize the artist, that are gonna run the song over and over and over. Producers get on their high horse. Oh, I need it exclusive. Oh yeah? Is it that big of a deal? You rather wouldn't just go through the hottest shit possible? Dudes don't know how to, dudes don't want to really analyze their decisions. They're controlled by their unconscious bias. They can't see their blind spots, which by definition, you can't see your shadows. That's why you got to spend a lot of time by yourself and do a lot of refining and go through a lot of volatility and negative feedback and motherfucking randomness and disorder to really tap in and find yourself. Then you can integrate your shadows, which aren't you. Those are your suppressed traumas from childhood that you forgot about, that have compounded over time and become the driver of your decisions, rather than that inner voice, that consciousness. It's about integrating your blind spots, your shadows, with you, who you are, accepting things about yourself. Because then once you spot it, you got it. And you're not going to behave that way anymore. Instead of running from your shit. That's some depth psychology from my brothers. Freud, Nietzsche, Jung, Adler. I'm not that big of a fan of Freud, more of Nietzsche and Jung. Freud wanted everything to be about sexual trauma. You know, violent trauma is a heavy factor as well. But think about what we're trying to do when we civilize individuals. We're trying to condition sex and violence out of them, out of men in particular. That's the purpose of society, is to literally condition out violence and sex out of men, as it should be, because we evolved as a species in survival of the fittest conditions. We were animals out there thugging it, just like lions. We've come a long way, haven't we? I'm about to listen, brother. There's a couple in there that were hard. Let's see what that boy Juco sent. I got you next, Sammy. Nah, we're not just another species. We're the species. No other species even exists. Those are all NPCs. You think we uploaded those beings from the organic reality where this code was written, where our consciousness exists, where the hardware that's running this software exists? What's the probability of us taking animals and uploading them into the simulation? That tells me it's more likely, highly more likely, that all animals are NPCs. Every dog. Now, I think because dogs' proximity to humans, let's say a human de-evolves away from God, away from love, away from low entropy, becomes more disordered, more chaotic. Let's say they commit suicide or kill someone else, and they get an opportunity to try again, but there's a penalty of having to come back as an animal for a couple experiences. That doesn't even make sense to me, but that would give some type of validity to animals having consciousness in the simulation, and just about the only scenario where they would. And that would be an extremely small distribution of the animals. Humans are something different. There's an objective moral obligation in this simulation for human beings. No other species has the ability to reduce hidden information and evolve away from fear towards God, towards love, towards order, towards predictability, towards consistency. They don't have the forced synthesis of the brain. They don't have the hardware to actually do the work. There's something different. We're not just another animal. We're the only animal in the whole fucking universe, even though that's mathematically impossible. Given we know that the same elements are found abundantly throughout the entire observable universe. And this is just a small little blip. Carbon, hydrogen, helium, all the core fundamental elements are abundant throughout the entire observable universe. So the probability of life emerging here in this small part of the checkerboard and nowhere else is nearly impossible. And yet, when we look out into the universe, we have the ability with these modern telescopes to detect bio and techno signatures. And there's not a motherfucking sound. There's no signs of technology. There's no signs of advanced life. And we can see all the way back to the beginning of time where it'd be highly more probable that we'd spot an advanced civilization. Earth is 4.5 billion years. The universe is 13.8. So we emerged roughly 2/3 into the space-time continuum. You know, this being the Big Bang, boom, this is our current evolution space. We're right here 2/3 of the way in. Looking back, given there'd be about 9 billion years of evolution before we came into fruition, it'd be more likely to find them towards the Big Bang looking back than out in the other direction. And if they did happen to evolve at an earlier instance of time, they'd be advanced for hundreds of millions to potentially billions of years longer than us. And they'd have unimaginable technological advancements. And yet we see nothing. That tells me that obviously that part of the universe isn't even rendered into existence unless we're looking in a telescope. It's just modeling the base reality. So once we had the ability to observe, we weren't like, what the fuck is this? There's nothing out there. It mimics the organic reality. I don't believe dinosaurs existed, like in the physical sense. Yes, when we look back, when we dig, we find that information. When we look, we find bones, different shit. That doesn't mean it actually physically occurred. I don't believe dinosaurs had physical consciousness. I believe the entire history was simulated, potentially up until around the time of Jesus. And maybe that's why they started time at that point, of all points in time. We're in the year 2022. It's an interesting number too. Because I feel like myself, I'm in another realm. I feel like mentally I'm in a whole nother level. I've realized that like I really have become something else. I've always looked at myself that way throughout my entire life, where as an athlete, I always knew I had to get bigger, stronger, faster every year. And so that always happened for me on a linear progression. But like once you start getting up into the upper boundaries, trying to compete at the highest levels as a public intellectual, as a musician, trying to make a living betting on handicapped sporting events, you got to be motherfucking experienced and refined and skilled. You got to have developed the skills that pay the bills and be consistent. At a subconscious level, you got to be sure of yourself. When you're in the darkness, you're fucked. Cozell, what up, brother? I have an obligation to share, you know, the revelations I've uncovered. I have an obligation to get involved as a leader because I have the skill set to do so. I don't need to numb myself from issues and act like I don't see them because I don't have any ability to impact. I know I can impact any situation. I know that I know you could inject me into a family that's dysfunctional and I'll have a major positive impact on every individual in the house, in any single house, if they have free will. If they're not NPCs, I'll slowly and surely get them to God, get them to the low entropy state, get them to pure love. Obviously not to the low entropy state, but in that vicinity. I'm not even to the low entropy state, but I am the closest in human history. I'm at a 99.987% love, 0.0013% fear right now. Still a little fear in me, I guess. I guess I gotta dig deeper. It's pretty hard. I've reduced a lot of hidden information, and I've refined my models where there's no noise in the signal. There's no noise in the signal. We can detect entropy, useless information. I can detect fear. I can detect randomness, chaos, confusion. I've consistently lived a pattern lifestyle of being as literally sacrificial as I can be, and I believe I'm the most sacrificial on earth. On earth. I don't think I live like a Tibetan monk, to be honest. I guess I could say, oh, I'm gonna sacrifice smoking weed, but why would I? Because I use it incrementally to reward my incremental progress. It keeps me in a level state. I deserve to reward myself for growth, for doing the tough work that's enabled me. I don't reward myself for external gratification. You know, I'm good with smoking one, feeling healthy, having options, having more options. And I convert these skills and these things that I valued into the optionality that money brings us. I don't value money. It's just fuel in the gas tank so I can further perpetuate my mission and keep climbing the mountain. Sometimes it's a heavy trek up, and sometimes it's a fucking gotta pump your brakes down. And in all states, it's all the same because it's already happened. Time hasn't caught up yet for me. I am a 5-dimensional being because of these concussions I had playing football. I've seen the future. When I go to sleep, I enter a different dimension where I can actually see this space-time as a physical object. I see the beginning of time, the Big Bang, and the end of time, the Big Crunch, and every single thing in between. I see the moment that every person in here was born, and every moment that you'll pass. Some of my brothers in here will make it into the hundos like me, the high hundos. Only a couple though. Y'all boys better get your lifestyle together. I'ma live to be 150, 175. Them cold showers, that heavy intermittent fasting every motherfucking day, no junk food, nothing. One meal, dog. You could break that meal into two different meals, which I do sometimes. More times than not, I'll eat my meal like 75-80%. I'll get a big meal, eat about 75-80%. Once you spot that you're already full, you don't need to keep stuffing yourself. Just like taking fucking 80 grams of protein at once, you're gonna shit out 30, 40 of them. 40, 45 grams of protein at once. Anything excess is entropy, useless information. Straight up. It's all about anti-aging. It's all about producing an abundance of enzymes, particularly telomerase, which are the enzymes that attach to our telomeres. The telomere is the end of the chromosome where all your DNA is encoded and packaged up in a nice spooled, like a ball of yarn or a spooled hose. As you age, as you experience time, there's a process called chemical methylation, where methyl chemicals attached to the packaging of your chromosomes of your DNA start to decompose your DNA So then over time, it's high entropy, it's disorder, it's randomness at the cellular level, because that DNA can't communicate to the cell through a process. DNA read by the RNA, converted into amino acids that chain together, form proteins, and then turn into cells. Once you enter that high entropy state of a decomposed DNA packaging, our cells go into a zombie-like state called senescence because they're trying to save energy. They don't know when they're going to get another, round of energy. So random shit starts happening. Alzheimer's randomly activates after being dormant. Cancer, diabetes, different traits that have been dormant your whole life because aging occurs, which is number one, the decomposition of your DNA, the packaging of your DNA, and number two, the shortening of your telomeres. Every time you go through mitosis, where you regenerate damaged tissue, there's a limit of times we can do it because of the fact that every time we copy our DNA, the very end of the code doesn't get copied when we regenerate our skin cells. It's called the Hayflick limit. We can only regenerate skin cells about 60 times because of that fact at the very end, only 99.99% of the code gets copied. It shortens each time. And the very end of the code is just like your shoestrings. This is the telomere, the cap. Every time you regenerate your tissue, it shortens. It shortens. What happens when the caps go? Your chromosomes start to dissolve. That is the cause of aging right there. The shortening of telomeres, which we can elongate by producing telomerase, the specific kind of enzyme I was speaking about that literally regrows your telomere, which is like the general of your fucking tissue, your cells, your cell line. If it notices a break, it commands the fucking red blood cells to go do work, white blood cells to fight off disease, etc. Straight up, it's all about the length of our telomeres, and we have to be able to produce telomerase to have that opposite binary effect of elongating them. And we do that by ritualizing discomfort, scheduling discomfort, cold showers, cold plunge, steam showers, sauna, extreme temperatures. Go outside when it's hot summer and just sweat and be uncomfortable for a while. Fast, that hunger pain. Your body as a survival mechanism is flooding out enzymes. Just as it did when we were in these survival of the fittest conditions, Savannah Desert, 4 or 5 days without food, waking up on our final day before we had no energy left and still somehow had the energy to go run down a motherfucking gazelle and survive. Our body kicks in. That's why you gotta scare your body with some difficult shit. Break the tissue when you're lifting. Struggle. It repairs itself. Deplete oxygen out of the blood cells. It's called hypoxia. Comes back with a higher capacity. That's the nature of anti-fragility. We're anti-fragile by definition because of the interconnectivity and interdependency of 30 to 40 trillion cells working together. Is it trillion or billion? I'm tripping. It's irrelevant. I don't know why trillion sounds wrong. I think it's 40 billion cells. Heard people say 30 to 70 billion, or is it trillion? Can anyone? I don't know why I'm detecting a little noise in the signal. Billion, exactly. Trillion didn't sound right. It's basically irrelevant though. Complex organisms like our biological body have the ability to repair themselves because emergence. You can't predict the nature of linking up with someone in life to collaborate, either in a positive or negative way. You can either defect or cooperate. You can either synergize or have deconstructive interference where you're breaking down previous existing structures. And that's strictly determined by the data. What type of alignment? What type of correlation of interest? What type of diversity? What type of elegant coordination? That's what determines the emergent advantages or disadvantages. That's the nature of nonlinear systems, complex systems, societal systems, biological systems like our body. We could heal this whack-ass culture in fucking 6 months. You know, new culture comes and goes quick. We gotta strong arm this shit like the LBGQT community did. That small minority imposed its fucking will onto the masses and the masses caved in. The real ones, the hustlers, the anti-fragile, the exceptional, the cooperative, the godly, the spiritual need to come together and fucking create an enlightenment before it's too late. Because the fucking clowns got the mic right now. Am I right? The pedophiles and the perverts and the fucking scammers and the junkies and the motherfucking swindlers and the fraudsters, they got the fucking stage right now. I'm tired of watching this shit, for real. I'm not trying to lose my life's work over some fuck shit. That's at the core. Now, obviously, I don't want to see people struggling. And it's bad out there right now. It ain't even got started yet. It is trillion. I thought it was. It just sounded crazy. Even when you said, I'm like, I appreciate you and your due diligence. That's the key, bro. Because we're not trying to fucking just be comfortable. We're trying to know what's real. We have an earnestness. That's the key to sense making and to higher cognitive functioning. Earnestness. We ain't trying to be right. We're trying to know what's real. We're trying to know the truth. If we're wrong, that's better than thinking we're right and fucking ourselves off with a bad mental model, a bad map of reality. Tasha, what's going on with you? I ain't seen you in a minute. I hope you're doing well. I miss you guys. You know, that boy Jack, he didn't like me coming on stage taking over. So he started blocking me out. But you know, I leveled my shit up to a whole nother level. I'd love to come in and share with the group. Tell Jack I miss him and I hope he's ready for me to come back and bless the group. I actually deleted Clubhouse because Eric Weinstein stopped going in there. I used to only like to talk in Jack's room and Eric's rooms. I ain't been on Clubhouse, but I'd love to get back in there and connect. That girl Tasha, a hardworking, amazing young woman. I see you. It's nice to see you. I know you're still evolving, still working out hard, still developing yourself as a mentor to other men and women. Real leader. Real obligation to show up with the real skills to impact others and pull people up. So you gotta gain motivation from that, to never lack and to always show up with new skills. So you never harm the mission, never harm your journey, never harm what you love, what you value. Juco, these hard, man.